I'm hoping that this week is not going to have the same kind of complications I had last week. Everything, for some reason, was falling apart last week. All right, so we got a minute and a half about. At least we're running some tests now. To avoid the echo. All right. Just let me know when we're ready, Trevor. Just let me know when we're ready, Trevor. All right, now I got echo.
Hi, Mom. Is Claire's birthday party today? Me again, Mom. Where did I put my history book? Hi. Sorry, forgot one last thing. Sometimes it's hard to concentrate. At school, I start looking out the window, and then I forget what I was supposed to be thinking about. I know it seems like I don't care, but I do. It's just difficult for me. Love you, Mom. Bye.
Join parents and experts at understood.org, a free online resource about learning and attention issues to help your child thrive. Brought to you by understood.org and the Ad Council.
Listen, as a hiring manager, I gotta tell you, the best job candidate isn't always the typical candidate. Sometimes they're a grad of life.
Meet the grads of life. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
Sometimes the best candidates aren't the ones we're used to.
Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train.
Ready? Good. Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Real Estate Plate. As always, I'm your host, Nick Sakalis, coming to you live from the WGBB studios here in Merrick, New York. And is it a lovely day today? I'm not sure, but it's a lot better than it was this weekend, I'll tell you that much. I'll tell you, anytime you have a weekend like we had this past Saturday and Sunday, actually more Saturday than Sunday, it turns the whole week into a mess as far as playing catch up. But that's one of the things that not only affects us here in the real estate world, it usually affects a lot of other businesses as well. Unless you're in the snow removal business, they're the ones that are actually doing really good those days. But that being said, I just want to jump onto one really quick thing based on the weather itself. I found a extraordinary amount of calls that came in on Saturday, which typically you don't really see coming in when the weather is that bad and that kind of thing. People usually lay off. The thing I found that was odd this weekend, and Saturday in particular, I was getting a lot of people still calling up trying to set up appointments. Now, I will say something. I will give a lot of agents and brokers credit for trying to schedule appointments on a day like this. But do you really think it's a really good idea when you're getting a foot of snow to be showing a house, even if the house is vacant? I personally don't think so. One, it's a liability. Two, it's not necessarily going to show its best. And three, who is going to clean up the mess of tracking all that snow and making the whole place wet? It's just one of those things. You have to think through these things. Like I said, I'll give a lot of these people an A for effort to try to do business. I'm never going to fault anybody for trying to be proactive and go out and get work done. But you have to also be logical, and you have to also be thinking it from a proper way to conduct yourselves. That being said, I'm not going to chastise people and that kind of thing. Like I said, it's just a weird thought and a observation I made that I found a little odd compared to other snow days that we had in the past. And it could be just the market the way it is, that people just really are eager to get in there into certain places. But be mindful of others, be mindful of safety and that kind of a thing. So I'll drop that subject and kind of give you a little bit of synopsis of what we're going to get into today. So last week I jumped into a lot of things. I mean, we got into all different topics that we're going to be going over the next few weeks. But one of them that I believe intrigued people a little bit more than others was the aspect of upcoming foreclosures, REOs, and that kind of a thing. And got a lot of questions and inquiries in regards to that. So I figured I might as well get started from that aspect. And look at this. Every time it happens, I specifically talked to this person right before I got on for the show, and he's texting me to call him now. It just never fails. It absolutely never fails. It's a sign of Mondays. I'm gonna start. They would say Manic Monday, whatever. I'm gonna start calling Mondays Mayhem Monday, because for some reason or another, Monday has become my most exhaustive day. Just the volume of stuff that comes down the pike, and preparation for the upcoming week, and calls that are going through, and new appointments, and et cetera, and especially if you take into consideration a weekend that we just passed where a lot of cancellations had taken place that we're rescheduling to make new appointments for. Mondays have become really a beast of a day. Really a beast of a day. I never would have thought Monday would have been my busiest day of the week. But it just has turned like that over the past few years. I want to say about the past 4 or 5 years, Monday has become my busiest day of the week. I'm not sure if other agents are feeling the same way or if they still have the same impressions, but just something interesting that I've noticed. Before I dive into what I was about to jump into with the REOs and the foreclosures, I will do something that I always forget to do. I will give everybody the phone number here in the studio, and that phone number is 516-623-1240. Again, the number here is 516-623-1240. If you feel that you have something to contribute, if you have a question, if you have a comment, if you have something you would like to discuss with me on the air, please feel free to call up that number, 516-623-1240. And of course, we're streaming live on YouTube as usual. And for all the people that are a little shy about actually calling in and you want to put a comment in there, feel free to do that as well. You're more than welcome to. And of course, because I said that now, I could assure you that people are going to text me and try to get my attention. So it always works that way for one reason or another. And I think a few listeners last week actually got a kick out of hearing my son on the air. And I don't know if I embarrassed my son a little too much or whatever. If I did, I apologize, George. I really apologize about embarrassing you, but I had to do it. I had to put you on, and I think a few people got a kick out of that because I got a lot of messages and commentary on there. Now maybe I'll bring him in as my sidekick or co-host at one point until I get too old, and then he could take over this wonderful radio show, this real estate radio show, as if he had any interest in there. He basically, I don't know how he could bear through the actually listening to the show oftentimes, because in his words, he thinks it is the most boring thing on earth. But hey, when you're 14, 15 years old, I think you got a lot more on your mind than think about real estate. But that being said, let's get into the topic today. Let's get into the topic. Foreclosures, REOs, pending distressed properties, upside down loan properties, all kinds of names, all kinds of different ways to be able to approach it. And a lot of people look at it as a wave or a avalanche of these type of homes hitting the market, which can possibly devastate it. Other people look at it as opportunity to be able to make a purchase severely under market. And that's why I'm actually going to tackle this today, because there's a lot of misnomers. There's a lot of misunderstandings of how to be able to approach these type of sales and listings, and understanding what they're really all about. Now, I'm gonna give you a few facts, and I'm gonna dismiss or verify a few myths as well, as far as foreclosures are concerned. And this is all coming from my personal experience. I do a lot of work with asset managers, and I have been involved heavily into these type of sales for quite a few years. So I've definitely understood the inner workings of how the banks and the asset managers and lenders are operating under these kind of circumstances. And I also have a real understanding of what the public feels and the sentiment that they have towards these type of properties. And I also know how to be able to list and sell them as well. So I'm going to give you a little bit of insider information. But unlike the stock market, when I give you insider information, I'm not going to get arrested for insider trading. This is just giving you public knowledge to the best of my capabilities. Now, this is going to be general. I'm going to give you a summary, just a basic understanding of how these type of deals operate and are conducted. Because let's be honest, this is a 1-hour show. I could make a whole video library or audio library just talking about this topic. And there's plenty of people out there that go on and they charge sometimes reasonable amounts, sometimes exuberant amounts of money to tell people about these things. So, I think it's important that people understand how to be able to operate under these conditions, and at the same time, I'll do my best to, guide you in the best way, in the best possible way of how to be able to do this kind of stuff. So let's start from the beginning. I'm going to start off with a couple of myths. The first myth that we hear all the time, and I hear this over and over again: well, the banks just want to take the people's properties and profit off of the loans and that kind of thing. Let's put this into perspective first of all, and let's look at it from a business aspect and just a financial point of view. Most of the time, I say this most of the time because every so often you do have a situation where the banks do hit a home run with one of these properties that they do foreclose on, because the debt might be low on it. There might be a ton of equity in the place. It might be in great condition. But what I will say more often than not If it has come to the point where a bank has foreclosed on a house and seized it and taken it over, they're already in arrears as far as collecting what their total amount of maximum income would be. Because for them to continue on a 20, 30, 15-year loan and collect accrue interest on that, collect interest on that, that's compounded, by the way, is a lot more profitable than them actually taking over property, becoming an owner of the property, managing the property, marketing the property, paying fees to have the property sold, paying fees to have it maintained and winterized, paying fees to possibly evict or maintain tenants. There's a lot more profit in them to do a streamlined loan and actually collect interest on the debt rather than go the other way. And this is something everybody needs to understand. And I'm telling you this from firsthand. Banks do not want your property. Simple as that. They don't want it. They want you to pay your loan, and that's it. They'll take that money that they're going to come back, and they're going to lend it to somebody else, and they're going to continue to increase their profit margin, because the thing that banks work off of is, and I'm not sure if it's 100% this way or not, but historically, the banks always had the lending power, the ability to lend out on mortgages based on how much money they had deposits. That's usually how it works. So they want to keep their money keep going liquid. They want money to keep coming in and keep going out and keep generating and building up. That's just how it is. Now, if I'm being a little bit too quick on this, I apologize to everybody. If there's somebody listening on there that maybe missed something or they want me to clarify on something, please leave a message or call in, like I said. But I'm going to try to speed through this as much as I can so I could hit just about all the topics possible without missing any major point on this process. So now that we got that out of the way, as far as whether banks really want to keep your money or not, and we want to dive in what the process of how they take your property. Sorry, I got a little distracted. Again, somebody texted me, and it's driving me crazy right now. You know, people are driving me crazy, especially the people that know what I'm doing right now. It is what it is. At least it's not my son this time. You know, texting me like last time, giving me a heart attack as far as thinking that something is going crazy. So here's the process. Typically, a bank loans out money on a house. They give a mortgage out. The idea is for that person that actually takes the loan to pay it back in full, including interest. Simple, straight to the point, right? Well, maybe a little too simple sometimes, because things happen, life happens. The people that received the loan are probably qualified at the moment they take the loan. But somewhere down the line, like I said, life happens. They might have a situation where they lose their job. They might have a situation where they are running into hard times. Maybe it's medical problems. Maybe there's other issues going on. or maybe they just don't want to pay. Some humans are like that. Some people, they know very well they're supposed to fulfill their obligations. However, they choose not to. They choose not to. And that puts the bank in a position where they're not collecting any income from their investment. When you have a situation like that, there's a protocol here in New York and the entire country where you can't just throw the people out, say, "Where's my money?" Kick them out. That used to work years ago. And, I kind of feel like in some cases this should be done, especially the people that are not that on the up and up, and the ones that you are blatant about not paying, regardless of their ability to pay or not. But there's a process. You can't just kick people out for not paying. You have to go through the court systems. You have to go through a whole process. You put a lien on the property. That's called a lis pendens. So people write down these special words, these real estate terms, lis pendens. Basically, lis pendens is a notice that is basically alerting that the house is in arrears. There's a debt on the property by a mortgagor, and it's the first step towards foreclosing on a property. Now, there are many ways to avert this process. There are many ways to avert this process through either modification. There's other ways to do it through your short sale. For people that don't know what a short sale is, basically it is a deal with the bank to sell the home for less than what is owed to the bank. In return, the bank usually, I say usually, will forego any other obligation from the person. In some cases, if it's in high deficit, you might have a situation where the mortgagee is actually in a position where they actually have to find or pay off additional money over time to the bank after it's lost. But most of the cases, successful short sale means that the bank washes their hands of this, the mortgagee washes their hands of this, and they each walk both way. They each walk away at a loss, basically. That could be averted that way. You could have a situation where you have modifications in place as well, where the bank can turn around and try to modify your loan, change the payment, add years to your payment, backloaded, front loaded, do all kinds of different configurations in order to get you to continue paying in any way possible. Those are the most popular ones. There are other methods to be able to go about doing it, but those are the most popular ones of all. But that's only to avert the situation of foreclosure. And there's other things. And I do recommend, if there's anybody listening that does have a situation where they're in arrears, or they feel that they're in the red, or if they feel that they are completely underwater and don't know what their option is, I strongly suggest that you speak to a professional to kind of give you your options. Now, you're listening to me right now. I'm giving you a summary. I'm not necessarily giving you a detailed form and every single option right now. And sometimes people's unique situation might open up to new options. But what I strongly suggest is you speak to somebody that does this for a living. So whether it's an attorney, whether it's an agent or a broker that actually handles these kind of distress sales on a consistent basis, or you speak to one of these modification guys. What I don't suggest you do is actually pay upfront money to some guy that's trying to take advantage of you, or some woman. man, woman. We have to include everybody. I don't mean to say man or woman. It's just a force of habit to say that. Oh, and other. We Trevor, we can't forget the others. We have man, woman, and other. There's all these kind of different names for these genders. I don't know. They, ze, za. Like my son was telling me, there's like 20, I don't know, 30. I don't know how many different names for human beings now. They teach these to the kids in school right now. When I grew up, when I was a kid, I knew male, female. That's it. And sometimes nature would cause some people to be a merge of male and female. Okay, I'll take that in place. Unisex, we could call it. Okay, but that's it. That's all I knew. You know. Now this blows my mind. Blows my mind. So we want to be sensitive, and we want to be politically, correct, and include everybody. So that's what I'm doing right now. I don't want to sound like I'm being sarcastic or anything like that, but it's just I can't. I really can't. It's one of those things. But like I said, sometimes I really need to take a pause whenever I think of these topics. You're so lucky that you don't have kids these ages right now. The stuff I see come back from the schools, like, it blows my mind completely. Maybe I'm just old fashioned. Maybe I need to get modern, just like modern people. Let's get all modern for everybody. Maybe that's what I need to do. But I'm just, one of these souls that, they can't, it is what it is. Anyway, this is what happens to me. I lose track. I go off focus. I think of other things, and then I go on rants, and I don't want to go on rants. I want to stay on topic. So let's stay on topic. We're talking about REOs. We're talking about foreclosure. We're talking about the whole process going on. For anybody that's just tuning in right now. And thank you to everybody listening live on the radio as you're coming back home, or if you got back home and you're listening on the radio at 12:40 a.m., 95.9 FM on WGBB. Thank you to everybody that's listening right now on the YouTube channel, and in the future when I post this on Facebook and you're getting the replay. Thank you so much for listening to that as well. And we can't forget the stream that's going on the WGBB website. So I think I said everything, right? I didn't miss anything. We got all the channels that we're on. All right. There's no advertisements, people, on this channel, but at the same time, I have to promote all the channels that we're on. At least for now. I got a couple people that want to advertise, and I'm not very open to some of these companies that want to advertise with me. I've said this before. I want to be as close to the topic as far as my advertisers are concerned. And even if it's not, at least if it's something that I could be behind, like if it's something that I endorse or something that I actually could use and I could be comfortable about it being advertising during my spot, I'll do it, even if it's not related, as long as it's not appropriate. But I'm getting some of these really weird suggestions for sponsors, and I'm not into that. I don't know. Maybe I have a target on me that weird things need to come towards my way. I hope that's not the case. But that being said, we get to the point where I went on a tirade and a rant far off of where we're at. So we're on the topic right now of unscrupulous type of individuals that might be looking to take advantage of somebody in a distressed situation and ask for an exuberant amount of money or even a little bit of money. Be very wary. There's plenty of people that will sit there and give you a consultation at no charge. I get people calling me all the time. In regards to ask me advice, some guidance towards what they do, and I'm more than happy to help them. Sometimes it could be it turned into them actually saving their situation and staying in their homes. And I actually, in my personal opinion, that there could be no better gratifying way to do that than to serve somebody by helping them stay in their home. It doesn't always work like that. You know, whenever somebody approaches me, I look at solutions to make them as whole as humanly possible, and at the same time, to give them their best case scenario. Okay, if you're calling me up to give you, an out or teach you a way of how to screw the bank, I'm not interested in that. I'm really not. And because I get those calls too. Same way I get a lot of calls from tenants telling me what their rights are so they could screw their landlords. I'm not into that. You know, believe me, I know how they could do it. I'm not in the business of sharing that information and actually helping people do the wrong thing. I'm sorry. And you know, for everybody that's listening right now, that's kind of disappointed in me, and you don't want to listen to me anymore because I won't help you, commit fraud or screw a bank or screw a lender or your landlord or anybody. Sorry, you don't have to be my listener right now. You don't have to be that. You know, so I'm just being frank, and I'm being really honest as far as that's concerned, and I think that's one of the things that the people that are consistently listening to me, the people that I work with on a daily basis consistently, I think they appreciate that more about me than anything else. So be very wary as far as anybody asking you for money, anything up front, anything of that anything of that nature. Be very, very wary of somebody approaching you with that. You could get the initial ideas of how to be able to get started from somebody that is willing to help you. And I'll tell you something else. You go online and you start a search as far as be very careful about this as well. You actually go online and you Google. Google could be a very helpful thing and a very dangerous thing at the same time. It's what you do with the information that you find on Google and the sources that you find that information from on Google that can help you or hurt you. So be very wary as far as what you see, because just like I used to say all the time, well, if it's on TV, it must be true. Or, you know, it's on radio, it must be true. It's on Google, it must be true. Well, be very wary of what must be true or what might not be true. You want to be very careful about how you approach and how you source your information. And that being said, you could actually find some really helpful stuff on how to get started. A lot of times you'll actually be able to get some guidelines actually from the lenders themselves. You go to the big banks like Chase, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, Capital One, etc., etc., and they will actually have some guidelines and resourceful tips for people that might be in arrears or in distressed situations or be in the red on their loans of how to get themselves started. So you want to at least read a little bit, and that information is available to the public. There are public servants that help people in those situations as well. So ignoring the entire problem itself and doing nothing about it is the worst thing you could possibly do. Because this happens a lot too. And I've known many people that lost their homes because they were too embarrassed. I'm going to repeat this. They were too embarrassed to seek help. And I'm going to tell you something. I'm just going to be straightforward with this. There is no embarrassment if you are having a hard time and you're looking for help from somebody to put you in the right trajectory to fix your situation. The embarrassment should be if you're willing to do nothing, tell nobody about it, and then you end up losing your home. What's more embarrassing? Because I'll tell you something, in this modern day of internet and Google and all this stuff, you can't hide the fact that you just lost your home and got foreclosed on. You can't turn around and tell people, well, I sold it. Because if you got somebody that's really that nosy and they really want to know your business, all they got to do is a quick search and see what happened. It was a foreclosure. It wasn't sold. All they got to do is look at public records, and they're readily available. Some places more than others. You go into the city, the city sites, you can find anything. Nassau County sites, pretty good as far as getting a lot of public information. Suffolk, a little tough. They're a little bit more mysterious than the other two places I just talked about. But that being said, I think there's a lot more embarrassment as far as not seeking the help, losing your home, rather than saying, you know what, I'm having a hard time. I got to figure out how to make the best of my situation. It happens. Look for the help. Somebody will help you. It will be something positive. I think we got an issue that's going on right now with the actual stream, not the video. Thankfully, I'm not gonna jinx it. I think there's a little bit of a problem happening with the stream as far as the chat is concerned. I'm going to check out if it's actually working, because somebody actually just texted me stating that they're trying to text and it's not going through on the top chat. So I'm going to thank you for joining me. And hopefully somebody that's listening and actually feels like typing in something will type something to respond to this top chat that's on here, or live chat, whatever you want to call it, and just make sure that it is operating correctly, because I just got 2 messages indicating that they were trying to put comments in there, but they weren't going through. So it can't be a day in the real estate plate without some kind of technical issue. Lucky break for Trevor is that it's not coming from the WGBB end. It's coming from the YouTube end. So let's see what happens. So again, like I said, it's not something to be ashamed of. It's not something embarrassed of. If you are doing this on purpose and you're doing the wrong thing, then you should be ashamed, and shame on you. Simple as that. Right now, we are in a world, in a place where it's not, people don't like to see, we use the word shame or shaming people. But if you're doing the wrong thing, you should be shamed. And by the way, cancel culture people, all you cancel culture people out there, why don't you go out while you're canceling everybody else, cancel all the thieves and all the fraudsters out there and all the people manipulating the system. Go cancel them while you're at it. I'll be a supporter of them. I really would. No, but that's too simple, to cancel people that are doing the wrong thing. But that being said, excuse me. Coming out good. All right, perfect. And I did you try to put a comment down there?
Coming out good.
Did you try to put a comment down there? Just curious if it's actually going through. Trevor says it's working, so that's a positive thing. All right, so it's working. So everything is working beautifully, swimmingly. Now let's get back into the foreclosures. I am not going to harp on the looking for help thing. There are so many places to look and help. If you really, really want me to give you full guidance and a full place, you're more than welcome to email me at any time or send me a message through any of the messaging platforms I'm on. The email here, as always, is realestateplateradio@gmail.com. Again, realestateplateradio@gmail.com. It's the same email that we've been using all these years. And you'll be able to get me a message over there, and I will respond as fast as humanly possible. Now, why I say as fast as humanly possible is because this right now that I'm doing, as far as the radio show, is a once a week thing. And it's something that I'm doing more of a public service than anything else. But I actually work in real estate by selling properties, managing properties, and doing all those type of transactions, leasing and renting and the whole nine, as my primary form of income. The show itself, as much as I love it, is not putting food on my table. This is as an additional thing that I'm doing more as a public service. So I will get to the messages as fast as I can, but it might take a couple of days because I do get a lot of stuff that comes through. Perfect. I just saw Trevor on there. You are doing great. I enjoy the information. Thank you very much, Trevor. Thank you very much. Now we know it works. I'm very appreciative of that. So once you exhausted all the forms of being able to modify, save yourself the home, and possibly come to the conclusion that there's nothing you can do, there's two things that are left at that point. One, you could write it out and wait until you get foreclosed and go through the whole process. Or two, do a situation of cash for keys, which is another way of being able to work it out. Or you basically just hand over the keys to the bank in return for them to either hold you non-responsible for the debt that's on the place, or work out a deal as far as paying off the difference. There's all different forms of way to do it. But what happens often is people decide they're going to ride the wave. And they're going to stay in there until the day it gets foreclosed. And some people will move out on the day of foreclosure. And some people will actually stay there well beyond the foreclosure date and force the lender or the person that, or the company or person, whoever foreclosed on the property, to actually go through an additional process that's called an eviction process. Because now you're living in the property, which makes it really, really, really difficult, especially in a state like New York. Now, everybody knows we got out of the eviction moratorium, but that means nothing in New York law because, one, in today's day and age, as far as going through the court process in there, they are so backlogged. You know, by the time they get to the stuff that's being filed today, it might take them a year. I might be exaggerating at this point, but it's going to take quite some time. I hope I'm exaggerating. You never know. But it's not going to be a quick process. So it's another step down the way. So there are things that could really, really hamper a situation like that. And sometimes they'll end up trying to sell the property. They'll try to sell the property with the tenants in there, and sometimes even the non-paying tenants in there as well, and make it the next purchaser's problem, which usually comes at a significant discount. Which brings us to another myth. There's another big myth going around. People, for some reason, in general, in the public, think that if they're buying a foreclosure, they feel that they are getting a deal. They feel that they're going to get a steal. And I will assure everybody listening right now that that's not necessarily always the case. I assure you that it's not necessarily always the case. And in a lot of cases, it's not even close to the deal. Banks are always looking to make themselves as whole as possible on the amount of money that they lost, not only through debt or through the loan that they gave, all the expenses that they had to take on in order to go through this foreclosure process. And believe me, it could get quite costly. So they usually start off trying to get themselves as much as they can possibly. Obviously, they take into consideration what the market value is and what the bearable ability to be able to sell a property under all different cases. And usually, what happens is, when they assign the agents or brokers like myself to assess a property, they will ask for a 30-day and a 60-day sales value, and they will also see what the um, turnover rate of a home or property that was put on the market um, from list to close, how long it will take. So they take that as all things into consideration. So a lot of times they will not start off with the basis of a 30-day close, because usually that will be the fire sale price. That will be the price so that they're trying to get it sold yesterday. They will attempt in the beginning, oftentimes, to go for that market value with a slight differential to make it a little competitive on there. But you're essentially at market value at that point. Now, what happens a lot of times when we put ourselves in market value, there is a bidding war. Very often, especially in an environment like we have today, you have a situation where people are rabid to get a property. You have flippers, investors, all these type of people that are very interested to buy a distressed type of property, especially if it's a distressed property. If it's not a distressed property and it's more meant to be a end user property, and there's no major structural issues and there's no permit issues and anything of that like, then you probably go for the higher range. But let's say it's a distressed type of property. Oftentimes in this type of environment, they will go into a full blown bidding war. And when they're going into a full blown bidding war, what often happens is not only do they sell for at market value, they sell for well above market value. Take a good look at any foreclosure REOs. REOs, by the way, is called real estate owned. REO, real estate owned. And what that means is property that is owned by an asset management company or a lender. And that's usually what they call their division, their REO division, for anybody that's actually trying to become an expert and learn how to be able to find these REO type of properties that haven't been yet listed, that are currently owned by a lot of these lenders. You start by looking up their REO department. Now, I'm not doing a show right now guiding you how to go and get these REOs, because I'm not one of these guys at 4 a.m. trying to sell you opportunities. But if you like, I could actually give you a full tutorial on it, but I'm not going to do it now because, like I said, it's a 1 hour show and I only got literally 13 minutes left. So if you want to get that kind of guidance, you're going to have to hire me. Sorry. Either that or I'm going to have to do a video tutorial on this. I don't know. It just takes a lot of time to go over all that stuff. And there's so many different resources and that kind of thing. There's videos out there. There's audio libraries out there. There's books that you can read. There's entire websites that are dedicated to the whole process. There's a lot of stuff that you can actually get into. What do you think, Trevor? When you think of foreclosure, do you think of it to be a deal or not a deal?
I get in some way, because I know over in Jamaica, you have something to do all the way down to places you go to the courthouse, and you can get them a home.
Yeah.
Sometimes it works out, and sometimes it don't.
You're talking about the REOs, the foreclosures that are being sold on the courthouse steps, as they call it, over at Supton Boulevard. 14416 Supton Boulevard? Or 14406 something? I'm close. It's right around that number. I've been there many times. And do you feel that everybody that gets a home there on those at those courthouse steps is getting a deal?
I don't know for sure, but there's sometimes you have to have cash, or you have to have a certified money order check for it.
Well, you absolutely have to have the cash. And I'll tell you, it's funny that you mentioned that. I'm going to tell you exactly how it works there because I've done that representing many clients. I've actually gone there bidding on stuff for myself as well. And I have a lot of experience with that. So I'll give you a little bit of understanding. It depends on the type of auction that you're going to. But most of the times, like the ones that they do generally every Thursdays, now I haven't gone there in the past couple of years, at least 3 years or so, maybe a little longer than that. So I don't know how they change the dates and the times and all that stuff for COVID times, because everything changes during COVID times. But I'm not sure exactly how it goes. But it used to be every Thursday that you would go there, and they would have the auctions. You could get the list ahead of time if you were on the subscribed with it. You could go check out the properties sometimes earlier. Sometimes you couldn't go. You had to go and only inspect it from the outside. But what would happen is most of those Thursday type of foreclosure auctions are bank-owned properties or lender-owned properties. So here's the thing. When you're going and bidding on that property, you're bidding against the bank. Always. That's why most of those properties are actually bought back that day by the bank. That's how they acquire the properties, because they have to they can't just seize the property at say, okay, we're foreclosing, we're taking back the property. No, they're supposed to actually go into a public auction and bid against other potential people that are interested in the place, because that other person might be willing to pay a little bit more than they will, and maybe the bank will actually be more whole at the end of the day as far as the debt that's owed to them.
So after what you're saying, they go there and bid again.
They ensure that they will get that auction will not put them in a high deficit of what they're owed. So basically, the bank will bid up to what is owed to them. So let's say it is a $500,000 property, and the people are completely underwater on the property, and they owe $520,000, more than what it's worth, and more than what's loaned out. Well, the bank will actually buy it back for that $520 that's owed to them. Most of the time, typical type of situation, in order to secure it, unless there's somebody else that's willing to pay more for it, which doesn't often happen. The only time you see a situation where the banks will not win the auctions or take back the properties are when the debt that they have is severely under what is owed to them. I mean, is severely under what the going rate for the market value is. So if you have that same $500,000 property and they only have a debt on it for $250,000, well, somebody's willing to pay $275,000, $300,000 at that point. They're going to get a great deal at that point, and the bank got everything they want back at that point. So that could work out, but it doesn't often happen that way, and there's not necessarily that much cushion in a lot of these loans. Because think of it like this: even that $500,000 property, if they have $450,000 on there, your average person is not going to be willing to pay all cash $450,000, $460,000 to outfit them, plus other additional closing costs. um, to secure a $500,000 property. I mean, does it happen that often? Unless there's so much potential value in there and growth or whatever the case, which it could happen. It doesn't normally happen. So-
Normally don't have to go to the courthouse to get if you know someone that has a purchase,
The what?
someone you know, you can either approach them directly or get to the lawyer and get the sale.
Are you saying if somebody is pending a foreclosure, it hasn't been foreclosed on yet, but they're getting close to being foreclosed on? Well, in those cases, then you would probably work out a deal with them if they're willing to work with you on it, and see if you could make the purchase in the form of a short sale, where basically you work out terms. The owner would have to work out terms with the bank, or whoever is representing them will work out terms with the bank in order to sell it for that amount, and basically clear out the situation of not getting foreclosed on. And then you purchase it. That happens all the time. There's people that go seeking lists of list pendants all the time to be able to get a jump on properties that haven't been foreclosed on, that are in arrears.
How do you get them?
Well, what's your definition of a handyman special? I don't want to call those handyman specials. Those are, a little bit fixer uppers, the kind of itself. Um, that would be for me a handyman special. The house that nobody wants is usually a project.
I know property getting there for years.
We're talking about probably a serious project where that it's beyond handyman special. You probably need a full blown construction crew to come in and do the work. And that's something that they have to be equipped and have the financial ability to be able to buy in, actually secure and do what the right thing about. So there's a lot of different components to that. A foreclosure could be pristine. The people that lost it might have owner's pride and left it in perfect condition when they walked away. More often, that's not the case. Or you can have a situation where the place is completely a mess, demolished. Usually, it's something in between. Needs some work. Maybe needs a good amount of work, but at least the bones are there. It's in decent condition. But the courthouse thing, like you mentioned, is not something that is for everybody, because you got to pay in cash. Unless you go get a hard money loan really quick to get it done, you got to close it in 30 days.
Right.
You might have the finances available to you. You might have already taken a loan in order to purchase it through a form of equity line or something like that, or business loan, whatever the case is, or hard money, like I mentioned. But they don't care how you're going to come up with the money. They want that 10% down payment upon the day of the auction, and then past that, within 30 days, you got to close. That's typically how it works. And they typically give you 30 days, not only to make sure that there's a quick thing, but they want to give enough time to get a title to clear, et cetera, et cetera. There's other things that are in place as well. And you can't mess around. You can't waste time. If you end up backing out of it, you lost your deposit. If it's a hefty type of property as far as price-wise, that's a big deposit you're going to lose. Years ago, we used to find lots and stuff like that were on foreclosure and stuff like that. It was really cheap. Like, you lock them up for like $50,000, $100,000. Not in great areas, but like little crappy pieces of property and stuff like that. They have potential to be able to do stuff with. So if you lock them in and you put in like $5,000 or a couple grand, just locked it in, and you end up walking away after you did the due diligence, it wasn't. Nobody's ever happy to lose money, but it wasn't a number where it would basically break people that were doing this for a living. You know, it's part of the business expense if you think of it like that. I'm better off walking away and taking that hit rather than buying it and getting in deeper and losing a lot more money down the line. So it's an educated type of thing. But in these kind of situations you talk about, especially in Jamaica, I'm so like it was something that I routinely did every single week, every single Thursday. I would go there and just sit in the courthouse, represent people, and I would see some of these things sell for numbers where I'm like, I can't believe they just paid this much money for the place. And oftentimes they discovered that they grossly overpaid for places and try to back out of it, and they end up either losing the deposit or I had to buy the bullet and take it. You know, how would you feel if you bought that same category $500,000 house that we just spoke about for $600,000 house? Why? Because you got caught up in a bidding situation. You know, you have to be careful. You have to be really, really careful. And I tell people, if you're going to go and bid for yourself and actually do the work, don't get yourself too excited about it. Don't get too nuts about it, because if you do, you could get burned. You get the burn. You're better off going there and observing a few auctions without bidding on anything and seeing how it works first, or go with somebody that's more seasoned and experienced and having them help you bid or whatever the case is. Oftentimes, the courts will actually pay broker's fees. It's part of the mix, so you might as well do it like that. It looks like our friend wants to get on. So it is 7 o'clock, and I am going to have to go off. We went on another rant, but at least we stayed to topic today. We definitely stayed to topic. Thank you all for visiting today here on the Real Estate Plate. Just like every week, Monday, 6 to 7 p.m. I appreciate you joining me. Have a great week. Make lots of money in real estate. Have a great night, and we'll be back again Monday. Have a good night. Thank you. Was it the guy on the show after me? I thought he was freaking out that we went over by 3 seconds. All right.